I want to take a little time and flesh out my thoughts about pool tables. And I want to do it just by talking about my experience, because experience is where stuff like this is learned. So as I've said before in a previous video, my introduction to playing pool and seeing it more through the eyes of an adult and taking it more seriously, the first real serious experience I had with pool was on a 10-foot Brunswick, where the university that I went to, that my wife and I went to, they had closed the pool hall, and then they had dispersed all the tables through the dorms. And this table ended up in a ballroom with a grand piano. I don't know where the grand piano came from, but anyway, the Brunswick, it was 10 feet long. It was beautiful, and it had to be at the time. And this was 25 years ago. This table was at least 50 years old. So I had played. I learned how to play on that, and then the majority of my play went early on in the game, and then even to this day, throughout going to tournaments, especially in bars, it's always the Valley Bar Box in my region. So being very familiar with the playability of a Valley Bar Box is important, and you really need to concentrate on getting to know the dominant table in your region. And for Texas and Louisiana, that's still the Valley Bar Box to this day. Diamond's coming on strong, but still Valley is the table. Now, the very first table I had at home, I drove from Louisiana to Nederland, Texas, and I bought an 8-foot Olhausen. And if you're an old viewer of my videos, you'll see that Olhausen. It was a great table, made a lot of memories on it. The rubber played well. Nothing was ever wrong with it. Played a lot of great matches on it. A lot of good times with friends and family on it. Now, I did get rid of it at one time and got a Gold Crown 2. So I played on a Gold Crown 2. And then I went back to the Olhausen. And now I have a 9-foot Brunswick Heritage, and this table is at least 60 years old. For a time at my parents' house in Louisiana, I purchased a 10-foot Gandy snooker table that used to be in a pool room in Monroe, Louisiana, and then it went into a deer camp, and then it ended up in my parents' house, and they played many years on it, had a lot of good times on it. And it was a Gandy Big G, a 10-foot snooker table. Now, throughout the years, when Diamond came around, I started experiencing Diamond. And at one time or another, I've played on just about everything. You name the brand or model, and I've played on it. And I've kind of developed a comprehensive thought process on pool tables, and here it goes. If you're considering buying a table, I wouldn't be so concerned about the brand. What I would be concerned about is when you go and you buy a used one, you need to make sure, of course, that the slate is not cracked. You need to make sure that where the slate seams are, that the gashes from where they've dropped those slates, those gashes aren't too severe. You need to evaluate the holes, the holes where the railboats go, and make sure those aren't stripped out. So essentially what you need to do is you need to get the person, especially if you're buying it from a used dealer, you need to make sure they guarantee the health of those railboats, and you need to make sure they put new rubber on there, and you need to make sure they put the rubber on there right. Also, you need to make sure that the unibody, the part of the pool table that holds the slate, is not coming apart or warped or somehow misshapen, so you get a good level on the table. People will make arguments all day long about, Olhausen's no good, or Brunswick is no good, or Diamond is no good. I think they're all good. I think what you need to consider is that they're all going to play a little different. And depending on the table that you get, you need to make sure that it is set up correctly, especially a diamond. A diamond, if they put the rubber on wrong or they torque the rails down too tight, it can make the table play way too fast and it's going to bank way too short. And that's true of any table. All tables are going to have their own quirks, their own design flaws. For example, of a lot of your older gold crowns, the unibody doesn't support the slate sufficiently, and the end slates will eventually sag even if the table mechanic puts it on correctly. So you need to really kind of research what you're buying and see what the strengths and weaknesses of that table is. And really, honestly, when you buy a table for your house, it's just as important to get the right person to install it as it is the table that you're buying. And I've kind of learned that the hard way. And you really need to be, you really need to get some assurances from a dealer, because a lot of times the guys that they send out to do your table, they do not know what they're doing. And they can do it wrong, especially when they put on the felt. You need to be really, you need to know some things about table installation so you can kind of monitor it. It's a big commitment to have a pool table in your house, so you do need to know some things to make sure that it's done right, or at least get something in writing about them doing it to where it plays correctly. Now, my thoughts about tables in pool halls and bars. It's like Forrest Gump and the box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's really, really true of any given table you play on in a bar or a pool room, because again, sometimes they don't set them up right. Just because it's a diamond with new felt on it doesn't mean it was done correctly. You also need to be aware of the fact that sometimes guys will intentionally alter a table to favor them. And I was playing, the very first tournament I ever won in my life was on a bar box, Valley bar box. The guy that set the table up told me, admitted that he introduced a lean to that table. And it was something I was going to discover anyway, but I knew about it and I used that to my advantage. And I would compensate for the lean that he introduced to the table. So that's a very real thing, especially in your smaller bars in small towns where people really don't know what they're doing, so they get a guy to do it. Well, if that guy's a player, that guy is probably going to set it up to where it benefits him, or he can build in an advantage. As important as the table that you have, you need to make sure that your lighting is good. I have really, really good lighting. It's inexpensive. There were these LED lights that I bought from Home Depot. But you should really look into having quality, high output light that's evenly distributed over your table. So also, when you buy a table, and you don't skimp on the lights, but don't skip on the balls. Get good balls. Don't get the cheapo Walmart or Academy or banged up used balls like from a bar. It needs to be quality balls. Make sure your whole setup is good. But no matter what, you also need to know that a table is never going to play absolutely perfect. It's going to be weird in places. It's just that you always need to be and concentrate on learning the quirks of various tables. Just an interesting story. There's a room here in the Houston area in Pasadena that's also an arcade, and they have something like 10 tables, and no two table is the same table. Different makes, different brands, different models. If you go in there and play in a tournament, you can play every match on a different table, which I think would be an interesting experience. So these are some of my thoughts. There's probably some other major stuff that I'm leaving out, but I think that's all I have for this video. Share your thoughts about tables. I want to hear from you. Maybe you disagree with me. You know, some tables are definitely a no-go. Let me know. Hope y'all are having a great day. I'm having another great day. It's another beautiful day. So I'll see you in the next video.